Why is it so that you always run away? Why is it so?
Hey guys, welcome to Frank's Tech Help. So today we're going to be taking a look at, I'm going to be replacing the axle on the Dune Thunder, the HBX Dune Thunder 12891 Keliwow, whatever it's branded as for you guys. I put this sucker through some pretty hardcore fun. Let's just put it that way. The biggest issues I've had are the tires breaking off, the bolts shearing off, and I've managed to, I've replaced the bolts completely, as you've seen in some of my previous videos, to keep the tires from falling off, keep the bolts from breaking. But I've been putting this thing through hell lately. So what I've managed to do, though, it would have been nice had the axle broken on the outside point, but instead it sheared off on the inside. You can see that there's an axle on this side and there's not on this side, and here are the pieces for it. So here's the actual axle that fits down inside of the tire well there, and then this is the piece that's actually broken off, and it's broken off from the inside here. And get this at the right angle and get the light up here so you guys can see that. So as you can see, right here is where it's broken off. The most inconvenient place, that seems to be the running case with this vehicle. When the tires break off, it shears the bolt. I had to drill out the axle on the inside in order to replace the bolts for this. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and do a teardown. This is going to be a pain in the butt, just so you know. I hope this video doesn't run too long. I'll try to shorten it as much as possible. But I do have to tear down the entire back rear end. I thought that I might be able to use a drill to drill down into that area and put a screw in there and then just yank that sucker out of there. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and start disassembling the rear end here, and let's get on top of this. You saw that I removed the bottom skid plate, the tail fin, and here's the actual shock assembly coming off now. So from here, as you can see, I've got some rocks and stuff in there. This exposes the entire back now of the rear assembly. And so from here, now I have to disassemble the actual gearbox itself and get that inside of there so that I can get that part out. So let's do that. Alright, so it does look like to get inside of the actual gear assembly, there's a line that goes right through here and follows back around, and I've got all the screws out, but the motor housing cover is going to have to come off in order to be able to get in there, so I'm going to go ahead and remove those screws now. And underneath, you can see that we have our gear assembly right there. Alright, so it looks like in order to lift this off, right here, it does look like it's it's attached or either blocked by the actual housing that's holding the motor in. So there are 4 screws here that I need to remove to expose the housing here. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. Alright, so I had to take the 4 bolts out of the actual engine assembly. Let me slide these other bolts aside here real quick. Just prop this down here like this. And from this point, the actual motor lifts out. So you have the motor assembly coming out right there. I'm just going to set it to the side. And then from there, as it turns out, it looks like there are 2 additional bolts underneath the motor that are holding this assembly together. So it is necessary to remove the engine or the motor in order to get fully into the gearbox housing here. A pain in the butt, but it looks like a good design. It looks pretty solid as far as how they've engineered everything. Although it's not making it that easy to work on in this scenario, considering that's all that broke was that one little piece. It's kind of ridiculous. So, okay, here we have it. The rear assembly is coming off the rear housing there, as you can see now. And now this gets us into where the part actually broke. So this is the good side right here. And this is the naughty bad side over here. So in order to get this sucker out of here, I thought it was going to be a lot easier than this, but you know, it looks like we got to put some work into it. So let me go ahead and jump ahead here and see what's going on with this. Really, in theory, you'd think these things would just slide out of here, but I guess it's going to make me go all the way. So let me go ahead and remove these 4 screws and see what we've got going on inside of here. Alright, so now that I've removed the 4 screws inside of the gear housing here, I'm going to go ahead and pull this out. And there we have the inside of the gear mechanism. Let you get a little bit of a look at that. Oh, wow, there's a lot going on in here. Wow, I don't know if get this up close enough. Zoom in a little bit here. On the one that is broken now, I'm coming in here and I'm pulling. There's the axle or the bearings, the ball bearing piece that goes on top of that, and then this actual axle piece goes. Oh, and there it fell out. Goes into the inside of this. So here, let me put this back in here. I'll just show you real quick. So on the inside of this assembly, this is the inside of the gear cog. This, once I pulled the axle off, you push that little pin in right there, and it releases, and the whole inside of this fell out like that. So there you have it like that. So there's the outside of the gear assembly. And this is ground zero. This is where the actual piece broke off from. As you can see from right there, it normally attaches like this right here. So I have to take the old one out. I still don't know how I'm going to get it out of there. It seems like the drill would have worked fine, but then this one has to go back in. So let me see what we're working with here. After closer examination under the microscope, something I did not see before is on the inside of this. Let me get the light up here. Directly in the middle of the gear where this broke off, let me get this back up here just to show you. That's where the actual gear piece broke off right there. Covered by grease, there's a tiny Phillips head screw. Just now noticed it. I was wondering why I wasn't able to get that out of there. So drilling it out absolutely will not work. As it turns out, there is a Phillips head screw in here. So I'm going to go ahead and unscrew that. Oh yeah, baby, there we go. Finally, you can see the screw coming out. Right there, hopefully you can. I don't know if I can get the focus in, but so I'm taking that screw completely out. Very gently. And now, lo and behold, I should be able to push the old junk out of the way. Alright, so I put the screw back in. to the end of this unit, just enough to have some sticking out, and then came back in and tapped it, and bingo, there we have it. Finally, there is the broken gear now protruding. So from here, what you want to do is you want to grab the end of this plastic, come back in and unscrew the screw again to take it back out of there. Once it's loose, there is your broken piece. So from here, you need to go ahead and put your small cog back into the large one. Alright, like so. And then from there, you want to go ahead and put your axle, or I'm sorry, your ball bearing piece back on the outside right there. You can see that that's sitting flush. So we're all good to go there. Now, the tricky part again is the screw needs to go in now. So don't do anything. You have to put all this back together before you put the screw in. Now, slide this out of the way. Like I said before, the plastic piece is not threaded yet, so when you put that screw in there, it's going to be hesitant. It's not going to want to screw in directly. So this is what we're looking at right here. And I have that screw just sticking out barely out of the end there. So you want to set this whole assembly upright like this, and you want to tap it with the screwdriver very gently to get the screw to go down inside of this to get the thread started. So you're going to tap it 3 or 4 or 5 times gently, and that's what we're looking at again right there. And then from there, you're going to take the screwdriver and very gently start turning it and try to get the thread as straight as possible. There we go. Oh, and there it goes. It is screwed back into place now, locked into the end of that, and from there we can go ahead and start reassembling everything. So I'm going to zoom back out here so you guys can see what's going on here. So from there, you want to put this assembly back together, but you've got to line it up to get your screws back in. There are 4 screw holes in here. So just line it up to match the screw holes like that. Once you get your first one in right there, you should be okay for the rest of it. So let me zoom back in here just for a minute while I'm doing this so you can see a little more closely. So I go ahead and get these 4 put back in place. So I gotta tell you, this is my first time ever doing this, and it was quite a chore. Make sure those are back in nice and tight. And I gotta say, it was a little baffling at first. Looking at the gears, I've never pulled a gear apart. I've never tried to do this before, so this is a new one on me, which is why I wanted to document it. I'm determined. I'm a very determined person, so I knew I was going to be able to do this repair, which is part of the reason that I documented it. I'll have to do quite a bit of editing, though, because I'm sure there's plenty of my hair pulled out on the desk over here somewhere. Just because this was such a pain in the butt. I can get that screw back in, get it lined up. These don't want to cooperate too well half the time. So there we go. Go ahead and get this one put back in there. Alright, so there we have our gear reassembled, and we do have the differential, as you can see. If you want to test this, you can spin one side and see the other side spin. So same thing on this side. Here come my dogs. Alright, so now we're going to put it all back together. Sorry, I had to get rid of the dogs there. So what we have here basically is a bloody mess. I'm going to zoom back out now. But as you see, the full assembly is repaired now, ready to go back in. And we're going to go ahead and slide this back into place here. Make sure that everything is still aligned properly. There we go. Now it is in your better interest to add some more gear oil back into this assembly. You've got various choices. People use different things, grease, whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit back in here real quick. All right, got the gear back in place, got the gear oil in. So next, we're going to come back in with the overall housing for the gear mechanism. Get it locked back down into place here. We'll go ahead and get these screws back in as quickly as possible. All right, so now that I've got the gear assembly cover back into place, and we've got our gear oil and everything in place, I'm going to go ahead and put the motor back into position here. And just to verify, I'm going to roll the front wheels, make sure, yeah, the cogs are moving properly. So I'll go ahead and get these screws back into here. Alright, so I've got the motor bracket back in, the motor's mounted back in. We need to put the primary gear cover back into place here. So go ahead and pop that on there. Get these screws put in real quick. Alright, so we've got our primary gear cover back into place. And from there, we'll go ahead and reassemble. I am going to continue to use the original axles that I have because they're still, despite the fact that they're dirty and beat up, they're still in good shape. Plus these are easy to replace, much easier than this assembly back here was. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and reinstall my rear shock assembly here. Just get this lined up properly here and go ahead and get these screwed back in. So all 4 screws are partially in, so now I'm going to go ahead and finish it off. Crisscross, bottom left, top right, bottom right, top left. Just gives it a nice even torque, like putting on a tire on a car there. So okay, so our shock system is back in place again. From here, I'm going to go ahead and reassemble the tires, and then I'll put the tail fin back on after the fact, along with the bottom skid plate. Got the axle back into the bottom here. Going to go ahead and insert it. I need to spin this around to get it at the right angle there, so that it fits back actually there, like so. If you can see on the axle right here, where there's a slot for that pin to go. So now that I have this back in place, I'm going to go ahead and put in my upper support bar screw, put it into place, keep this in proper alignment there. There we go, got that one in place. Go ahead and screw that one down. And once again, you want to make sure that those pins line up with the holes before you lock this back into place here. Let's go ahead and get that upper control arm back into place. Kind of difficult to hold that. Alright, like that. And then get our pin back in. And from there, you want to screw the rest of the way back in. Not too far. Alright. There we have it. So the first test, obviously, is to see that the wheels are in fact spinning, indicating that the gear is fixed. As you can see very clearly, this is the part that was previously broken. Now it's back in place. So, all right, next I'm going to go ahead and put the bottom skid plate back into place here. All right, so from here I'm going to put the shocks back in. Now, a little note on the shocks as I get these put back into place here. You can see how flat this is right here. Now, if you use this first hole, there's 4 holes here, and it's going to adjust the height of the shock. I think by default it's in the second one. Now if you put it in this first one, it's going to push your tires really far down like that. And I'm going to tell you, I've tried it, and it's going to put a strain on this axle. It's probably going to break it. That might be part of what broke mine. I only ran it like that for 20 minutes or so just to check it out. But if you're doing off-road stuff, it's supposed to give it a lot more shock absorbency. For me, other than being in the dirt, I'm on the street a lot, pavement. I like to slide and turn and jump. I go with the first hole right there, and as you can see, the clearance is just pretty straight across. So when, you know, if you're taking big jumps or whatever, by doing this, let me get this out of the way. So if you're taking big jumps, you know, and you're kind of off-roading a lot, you might want to set it to like the second one here, because it's going to push it down like this a little bit. But if you're street racing, kind of running around like that, the first one is going to give you better clearance, and it's going to keep the car from flipping over so easily. So that's just my little tip as far as the shock absorbers go. All right, got both of those in there nice and tight. So there's the rear assembly again. Like I said, if you notice, this is a much lower profile. There's not as much ground clearance, but when I'm driving, it keeps it from flipping over so easily. So last but not least, let's put the tail fin back on here. Oh yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Man, I'm so glad that is done. Now, I'm gonna pop a battery in here real quick and make sure that this puppy's functional the way it should be. Strap my battery in there. If you want to know about this battery mod, I do have another video on my channel regarding that. Grab the remote here, turn the unit on, turn the remote on, and let's make sure the tires are functioning. Yep, there we have it. You can see into the gears there. All right, there you have it. This is the axle, inner axle replacement for the HBX Dune Thunder 12891. It was a complete pain in the butt, but I got it done. My first time ever doing that. So I really hope this helps you guys out. If you've broken it, you can order the replacement part. Once again, it's the 12604R kit that comes with all the various they call it dog bones or whatever. So it covers all the axles, the outer CV joints, we'll call them, the inner CV joints, which is what I just replaced. So, all right, hope this video helped you out. As always, thanks for watching Frank's Tech Help. Peace.
Why is it sad?